Hello and welcome to the Wolverton workshop. In this video we will take a look at the next piece of custom rolling stock for my N-gauge layout, Wolverton North.
Please stand back from the platform edge.
I've always liked the idea of having a Great Western breakdown train on the layout, so I thought I'd start with a tool van and a mess van, also known as a riding van. The vans were coupled in pairs and located at major depots to be deployed as part of a breakdown train when required. These vans were all built on existing 4- and 6-wheeled underframes taken from old coaching stock, so there is a lot of variation in the chassis detail between each van. Originally I was only going to create a pair of 4-wheeled vans, but quite late on into the process I noticed that all the preserved tool vans currently located on the Severn Valley Railway had 6-wheeled underframes. At that point I had already printed out all the parts for the 4-wheel tool van, so I decided to finish that anyway. Then I would revisit the design and try to add the extra axle to create a 6-wheeled version as well. So starting with a look at the 4-wheel tool van, for which I'm using number 135, which is currently preserved at the Didcot Railway Centre as my reference. I began with the design of the underframe, which is very intricate. I added brakes, pipework and vacuum cylinders. The steps were especially small. It was a challenge to keep these details fine enough to look correct, but also make sure they weren't so delicate they would simply break off. The body itself on these tool vans is very simple, with only a pair of double doors on each side and a gangway door at each end. Finally, I modelled the roof including the 4 skylights. Adding the handrails at the steps end presented a challenge, because on the rear wagon these extend above the roofline. The solution I used was to add slots into the roof that go around the handrails. Once I had the 4-wheeled version all printed out and tested, I went ahead and modified the frame to add the centre axle. This meant moving around some of the brake equipment, and I have to admit I had no reference for this, so it may be completely wrong, but visually I think it looks believable enough. The 6-wheel tool van I'm recreating is number 112, which is currently preserved at the Severn Valley Railway. I chose this wagon mainly because it appears to be in good cosmetic condition. And once the same tool van body as the 4-wheel version was added, I had a completed 6-wheeled van. I've learnt a lot through trial and error that the key to making a 6-wheeled chassis run well is to allow the centre axle to move in the vertical direction. Without the ability for the axle to move up and down, the van pivots around these on gradient variants, which leads to derailments. It was then time to move on to the mess van, and for this one I've chosen number 55. This has spent most of its time on the Severn Valley in various static roles. It's currently in use by the 813 Preservation Trust for their fundraising shop and is located at Bewdley Station. As with the tool van, I started with the underframe. It's almost exactly the same as the 4-wheeled riding van, apart from the steps on this one run the full length of the wagon. The body, however, is quite different, with multiple windows and doors on each side and the addition of windows at one end replacing one of the gangway doors. On a recent trip to Bewdley Station I was able to go inside van 55, and now that I have the reference I thought it would be fun to recreate the interior as well. I added the wash facilities, a number of storage boxes and these 2 cast iron stoves. The roof is very simple with only a pair of gaslight fittings. Again I added the slots to allow the handrails to curve above the roofline. And here are a number of shots of the completed wagons running around my club layout. have the two types of van, the next thing I want to add to the breakdown train is a crane. The plan is to recreate the Great Western 12-ton example that can be found at the Didcot Railway Centre. And that's it for this video, so until next time, thanks for watching.